testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Keep spinning. Well, hello again, everyone. That was an overly hyper intro, but hi. For today's How to Be Happy January video, I am going to talk about and address something that I have never blatantly talked about or made a sole video about on this channel. Now, two things that I have to address before I hop into this video. First off, I know that all of the videos this week have kind of been Debbie Downer videos, and they're not all going to be like that. I'm really trying to build this series in a way that is not only a conversation between me and you guys, but also in a way that really addresses happiness holistically. And I really believe that, as corny as it sounds, happiness kind of holds the hand of sadness. While I wish that we could just entirely avoid like all sad times and the topic of sad conversations, like all of those sad things, in general, I think that we need sad times to learn from them. Sometimes I feel like you have to see things in black and white in order to appreciate them in color. Second off, per the usual, I really tried to go and read all of your comments in the last How to Be Happy January, and I was like teary-eyed while I was reading your guys' comments, and I also felt really happy while reading your comments. So many of you guys have struggled with the same thing that I've struggled with, that there are just some days where you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see. Your skin, your hair, your weight. Which brings me to today's video and a semi-awkward segue into the topic of
my eating disorder.
Now, I have to start by saying that I do not currently have an eating disorder. I actually haven't struggled with an eating disorder since I was like 19, 20 years old. Regardless of what some people have said during my time on YouTube when my weight has fluctuated, I have, however, developed this really weird characteristic that I think kind of becomes common in people, that when I get really stressed, I lose my appetite. So I just wanted to clarify that in case people were kind of wondering. When I did battle with an eating disorder, it was really hard and it was never satisfying. And if you have battled with an eating disorder too, you know that it is never satisfying in every sense of the word. All right, so I'm gonna back up and I'm gonna start kind of from the beginning and give you a little bit of my history of my body type, my weight, and all of that. I have always been a pretty thin girl. Like, even when I was little, I was all legs, and my mom always jokingly called me Olive Oil. If you don't know what olive oil is, it's this chick right here. She was from the cartoon Popeye, and she was just really thin and long and lanky. And even when I was shorter, because I've talked before about the fact that I just grew really fast in my teenage years, even when I was shorter, I was always really thin and lanky and long and all legs. Now, even though my weight was something that I was always conscious of, and I think that that was due to being a dancer as well as growing up with a mom who struggled with her weight, my weight obsession never became a thing until I was a teenager. As most of you know, I incurred a serious hip injury when I was 14 years old, and 2 years later, when I was 16, I went into a hip surgery to hopefully get rid of the aching and snapping and just debilitating pain that had happened from that injury. Now, the good news is that while the surgery took about a year in total to heal from, to like get out of the walker and the crutches and all of that, after that year, so much of my pain was decreased. But the bad news was that since my hip surgery was experimental and they didn't really know what they were looking for, the 7-inch scar on my hip ended up leaving like my hip, thigh, buttocks area like severely misshapen. It hung weird, almost kind of like a double flap, and it also left my right thigh about 2.5 inches bigger than my left. It seemed like no matter what I did, the weight wouldn't come off of that hip and that part of my body wouldn't like tone up. Now at that point, I had never faced anything before that like sheer determination and discipline and hard work wouldn't fix. Now, fast forwarding, little did I know I was gonna end up dealing with my skin, which was kind of the exact same thing, where like my obsession couldn't fix it, which I feel like, I don't know, is that God trying to tell me something? So I decided that if I needed to take extreme measures to drop the weight on my butt, then that's what I need to do.
After all, some things in life just take a lot of discipline and a lot of focus, and that's just how it is.
At least that's what I told myself. So it started with the South Beach diet. Now, for those of you that don't know what the South Beach diet is, it's basically like the Atkins diet. It is a really low carb diet. And when I decided to go on this diet, my dad told me it wasn't a good idea due to the excessive amount of dancing and working out that I was doing. But I honestly just thought that my dad was trying to be like a good, supportive dad, but that I obviously needed to do something drastic because I couldn't get rid of the extra weight that I was carrying on my hip. I honestly thought that like,
if I didn't have extra weight to lose, Dad, then I wouldn't need to do this. But because I do have extra weight, obviously I have to do something to drop it.
well, that diet ended up only lasting for about 2 days because 2 days in, I was standing in the kitchen and I had to catch myself because I almost passed out. And it actually kind of scared me, like pretty bad. I could tell that it was serious. So I stopped that diet. So my next resort was just pure caloric restriction. I thought,
Okay, this is pretty black and white. If I just eat less than the amount of energy I'm putting out, then I should lose the weight.
but I thought,
Even if it's not easy, I'm going to stick with this. I'm an athlete, and sometimes in life things are difficult and they're hard, and that's just how it is, and you have to stick it through and see it through to get what you want in life.
so I religiously kept my calories to 1,200 calories per day while dancing 6 hours a day and doing 2 hours a day at the gym of spin classes and weightlifting and squats. So I was working out 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. Really random, but I actually remember hanging out with friends and like dying to try the food that they were eating. And I just would take a bite and I would suck on it and taste it, and then I would spit it out in the sink. This phase of extreme caloric restriction lasted for about 1.5 years, 2 years. I was obsessed with keeping my calories under 1,200 calories per day. I ended up getting so skinny. I was 116, which to put that into perspective, I am 5'8.5", and currently I'm around 127 to 130. That's like, I'm pretty sure where I fluctuate. I don't know 100% for sure because I don't actually keep a scale in my house, but I was much skinnier than I am now, and even more important than that, obviously, I wasn't eating enough nutrition for the amount of energy and stress that I was putting my body under. The thing is though, even with being that skinny, my body wasn't dropping the weight in my butt. I realize now that not only do I think my body was starving and holding on to the fat in my butt, but that I also had way too high of expectations for an area of my body that had gone through so much trauma in the last few years. Also, the point that I'm sure that you're all waiting for, I had serious body dysmorphia. People were telling me almost daily that I was, quote, so skinny, but I didn't really believe them. I had so many skewed thoughts. With some people, I thought that they were jealous of how disciplined I was, so they wanted to divert me off my current path by making me feel like I had gotten too skinny. I also thought,
well, America as a country is so fat, they don't even know what to do with someone who's a normal weight.
with other people, I felt like it was a genuine compliment. Like I was so happy that someone had noticed my hard work. Either way though, I still found myself staring at the bathroom mirror, looking at my butt and crying. I couldn't believe that with the amount of discipline I had, that my butt still looked like someone who hadn't worked out a day in their life. It made me feel so discouraged, and as time went on, I thought about it more and more. Finally, one night after my mom had made a meal, I went upstairs and I just felt so disgusted with myself.
Why did I give in? Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Even though I was still in my caloric limit for the day, I just felt heavy and I felt disgusted. I went upstairs to my bathroom, and for the first time, I made myself throw up. It's weird because while I was doing it, I knew that it was so bad for my health, and I knew it wasn't the answer. And I even knew while I was doing it, like,
why am I doing this? There's no way I'm going to keep this up.
but I just felt so disgusted with myself, and in some ways it felt like the only solution. And it also felt like some kind of like disciplinary action towards my body for not being what I wanted it to be. It didn't feel good. I knew it wasn't a solution, yet I chose to do it anyways. I felt so desperate for something that didn't even matter? Why was I so desperate to look like other people? And why did I ignore the fact that eating that little and working out that much was bad for my body? I don't know why I justified that. I don't know. I think it was honestly a way of controlling myself. I'm sure that you've probably heard from people who have had eating disorders that it's a way of control. I can control how much I eat. I can control how much I work out. But what was making the obsession so compulsive and dark was that I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Now I know that there wasn't a result that I could have attained to make myself happy because what I wanted wasn't possible. I wanted a toned butt and a skinny body, and I wanted to ignore the fact that I had just gone through major surgery. I was not loving to my body, to the temple that allows me to live in this world and to be with the people that I love. I was being harsh and expecting so much of my body whilst depriving it of the fuel that it needed. My thinking was like too narrow and harsh and not holistic enough, if that makes sense. I wasn't allowing myself to see and accept the whole picture. Anyways, in the following days, I ended up making myself throw up like 2 more times until my mom found out. And after that, it ended in a tearful, heartfelt discussion in her bedroom that genuinely put to rest the things that I had struggled with for the last 2 years. I think by that point, I was so over the abuse that I had been dishing myself for the last 2 years that I was just ready to put it to sleep. Almost like I was just waiting for someone to tell me that I wasn't lazy and that I was okay, that I was enough, and that it didn't matter. And I think that when my mom hit that point home, I felt this weight lift off of my chest. Okay, now 2 things. First off, I don't think that knowing your calories is bad. It's kind of strange, but because of that time in my life, I don't ever struggle with overeating because I'm always aware of what I'm putting in my body. I'm not just like blindly shoveling in food and like hoping that I can stay in shape. That being said, I wish I could go back and tell myself to love myself and tell myself that it's okay to rest. As I mentioned, I didn't want to take into account the whole picture, the fact that I was a dancer, a growing teenager, someone recovering from major surgery. I just wanted to be skinny and have a nice butt. And I wanted the feeling of control and results. I wanted it to be black and white, clear cut. Total side note, if you saw my JLT New Year's resolutions video, I actually mentioned in that I wanted to tone my butt up, and some of you guys who watched that might be like kind of confused, but I just wanted to clarify when I said that, what I'm really referring to is that I want to stick it through with yoga, and I just want to tone the lower half of my body in general because I think the weakness in my body has been part of what has caused so many injuries, but I just wanted to clarify that point before I move forward. So, if you are struggling with an eating disorder or body dysmorphia, I want to tell you that you are okay. You are enough. Stop hurting yourself. Your body is so much more than a shell to look attractive in. And as I mentioned in my last video, what is even attractive? What is beauty? It's relative. Because beauty is relative, it can literally be a constantly moving target that you will never reach. You won't ever see yourself as having made it. You'll just stay on the same crazy merry-go-round that involves self-abuse and completely unnecessary, vain mental torture. Change your priorities to being the most active, healthy, and loving version of yourself so that you can go out and do the things that you love and you can encourage other people to do the same. Ask for help and do not be ashamed. That's one thing I'm really trying to do in How to Be Happy January. I'm trying to be more transparent. While I am mildly afraid that airing my dirty laundry is going to make some of you think I'm crazy, which I may be, I also want to tell you guys that being flawed is okay because you will never be perfect. It's okay to have pain and heartache, and I believe that by sharing your scratches and your pains and your heartaches with other people, you can not only help other people, but you can be set free. Set free from the compulsion of perfection and rest in the peace of knowing that life is a process. As my pastor says, I am just trying to be more like Jesus today than I was yesterday and more like him tomorrow than I am today. Life is a journey and it's hard, but it is also beautiful. And I truly believe that sharing with each other is part of what makes life so beautiful and breeds genuine happiness. So once again, if you're struggling, do not be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to share. All right, so that is the end of this video, and that is the end of reflection week for How to Be Happy January. So I don't really know how to do like a smooth little outro from that, but that is the end of the video. As usual, please comment down below if you have anything to add to what I said, or you want to share your story or get something off your chest. As usual, I will be reading comments. It's been really cool going back and forth. So I will see you guys with a new video on Wednesday for next week's theme in How to Be Happy January. I love you guys, and yeah, I will see you all soon. That was not cute. Bye!